Okay, so I think we are now 10, so we can start. So good evening to everyone. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, so this is the first time I've held a late night lecture, and I'm glad you all joined. You know, I wasn't expecting a lot of people, but this is actually quite good attendance. So my name is Takuz Gwadere, and I will be taking you for this course, BMIS 414, Information Technology Management. Let me try to share my screen and see if you can see it from that end. My Skype is freezing now and then, I don't know why. But let's just see. Desktop, okay. Just confirm you can see my desktop.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
It's coming up.
Yeah,
That's
I
fine.
can see it.
That's great. So firstly, we'll look at our course timetable. Then we look at assignments and tests. Then we look at our course outline and introduction. And any other business. Okay, so in terms of our course times, we have agreed that we'll be meeting every Tuesday from 20-30 hours. We'll try to keep it to at most 1 hour, up to 21-30 hours. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine. For me, it's fine.
Okay, that's fine. So in terms of our assignments and tests, you get 2 assignments during the course, and you also have 2 tests. We'll see how the tests are delivered. One of them is definitely going to be open book. The other one, we'll see what we can come up with. And for some topics, we may have some quizzes on topics. Okay, so some topics we have quizzes on the e-learning platform, and as far as materials are concerned, you'll find all the materials will be posted on, I was about to say Moodle, on the e-learning platform. So that's where you're going to find the materials, and I'll be posting them as we go with our lectures. So if you go on the platform right now, you'll find there are already notes on the introduction, and the course outline as well is there. Okay. Are there any expectations that you have in terms of how the course is supposed to be delivered, time management, I don't know, delivery methods, etc.? Is there anything that you want to touch on before we actually get into the course content? Okay. Please confirm you can still see my screen.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
All right, that's fine. So generally, information technology management is a course that's now trying to bridge the gap between the technical staff and the management staff. So that's the whole idea behind this course. We are trying to say, you know what, for the past 2 years, you've been learning more of the technical side of things, how to program, how to network, how to think in terms of systems design and the like. And then in this course now we're saying there are certain topics that you did not cover in those areas, but these are very important in terms, as a manager in IT department. Now the interesting thing about this course, like I think it was on Friday. On Friday, I actually went for an interview, a managerial interview. Unfortunately, I did not. Well, I haven't given us the results, but I'm pretty sure I did not get the job for other reasons. But the important thing is, out of the questions that they asked us, most of them, if not half of the questions, were actually answered by the staff that I teach in this course. So you'll find that the material that we cover in this course is pertinent and relevant for any IT management position that you may think of holding, is because these are the kind of things that you're always going to be talking about if you're putting a leadership position, or whether you're a team leader, a project manager, or an IT manager of whatever area. This kind of information is what you need in your day-to-day work. So basically, those are the kind of topics covering in this course. So before we actually, without going into the course outline itself, this course, I would like to say it has 3 main parts. Okay. So the first part is the strategy part. I prefer to refer it as the corporate strategy part. I hope that's the right spelling for corporate. Corporate strategy. So you'll find that everything that we do in any business, it starts from the corporate strategy. Okay, so whatever we're going to be talking about in this course is to satisfy the corporate strategy of any business. So this course takes practical ideas, it takes practical cases. So we'll be using a lot of case studies that we can come up with from our experience, whether at work, at home, or wherever else that we find these various ideas, scenarios, and concepts. So the key thing is everything that we talk has to fit the corporate strategy. So the corporate strategy is the most important part of this course. Okay, and it's the first part. Then the second part is IT governance. Okay, so with IT governance, we're basically talking of how do we manage our IT department so that it can deliver the right results that help us achieve the corporate strategy. So our IT governance is looking at what is it that we can come up with, what are the processes, what are the procedures, what are the technologies, what are the human factors that we need to have, the human talent and expertise that we need to have so that we eventually can be able to achieve, to help the organization achieve its overall corporate strategy. Then we have the third part, which is IT operations. Now, under IT operations, we're now basically looking at the day-to-day functions that we do as IT people, whether it's networking, database administration, systems administration, development, etc., as well as other concepts, which we'll look at just now. So coming back to corporate strategy, if you have any question, you can interrupt me anytime, because I may not be able to see your hand if you put it up. So just interrupt me. Are there any questions so far on what we have covered up to this point? Okay, so let me continue. Now, so before I continue, we said we've got 3 main parts: the corporate strategy, which is the most important part, and everything that we do in our IT department is supposed to feed into the corporate strategy. Is that clear? One person say yes or no. That's clear, right? Okay. So everything is supposed to feed into the corporate strategy. Now, under corporate strategy, we are going to look at different things now. We're not just going to look at the corporate strategy, but we're also going to look at the IT strategy itself. Okay. We're going to look at how do we come up with our IT strategy. We are also going to look at the different levels of strategy. You know, the strategy, for example, we've got our corporate strategy, we've got our IT strategy. Now, within IT, we are going to have our departmental strategy, our sectional strategy, and our strategies. So we need to know how we work with all those strategies. Then we are also going to look at how we actually how we go through the process of buying or acquiring or making IT investments. Okay. So we are also going to look at our IT investment strategy, and we are going to look particularly at the 3-stage investment process. A very simple process, but it covers a lot of concepts that can help us to avoid mistakes when making our investments. So we'll look at the corporate strategy itself, then we'll look at the IT strategy, then we'll look at the different levels of strategy, our IT investment strategy, how we actually acquire different either human expertise or technologies, as well as looking at the various management roles and responsibilities in IT. So we'll look at the various layers of management, okay, that are found in IT. So when we have covered this, basically we would have covered a lot to do with corporate strategy. Then when it comes to IT governance, we'll look at IT governance frameworks. We'll look at IT governance frameworks, particularly ITIL version 3, although there's now version 4, but I think version 3 is well placed for us to really understand how we can get ourselves to manage IT departments. So we've got IT version 3. We'll also look briefly into COBIT, and then an ISO standard for security. So it could be ISO 27001 or any other variation. So those are the main IT governance frameworks we'll just look at. And we are looking at these as examples so that we can see how we can use them to come up with an IT structure that we can use to manage our various resources. So you'll find that within IT, the key thing that we need to manage, or the things that we need to manage or come up with, are our processes, our people, and our technology. So when we are developing or coming up with a framework for managing our IT department, we need to keep in mind that we have got processes that we need to facilitate for the business. Then we have got people who are either our customers or are the staff of the IT department, and we need to see how we can actually keep both sets happy. Then we also need to look at the technologies that we are going to either purchase or use to facilitate these processes as well as achieve the business goals. So under IT governance, this is something that we will look at as well. Now, when we now have a framework of how we are going to manage our department, we then need now to look at the actual operations. Now, under actual operations, we are not really going to say, you are the database administrator, so what do you do as a DBA? No, we are going to look at the general concepts or general issues that you as a manager might be concerned with as you do your work or as you manage your team. So you will look at things like business continuity management, okay? We'll look at things like business and IT alignment. We'll also look at IT sourcing strategies. The IT sourcing strategy might actually go under IT governance, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, IT operations is based on IT governance, and our IT governance is then based on corporate strategy. I hope you are getting that connection between these topics. So look at our business continuity management, our business IT alignment, IT sourcing strategies, and we'll also look at our business intelligence as well as the business intelligence tools. So these are the main things that we are going to cover in this course. And by the end of this course, we should be able to create a connection between what the person at the bottom of the food chain, or whatever the system administrator or the analyst or the developer is doing, how it can actually feed into the realization of our corporate strategy. So are there any questions so far on what I have outlined here? Okay, so let me just open the course outline. So this is the course outline. We'll look at IT strategic planning and investment, where we'll look at basically the IT strategy, corporate strategy, and all these other things I outlined. Then we'll look at our business continuity planning, our IT governance. We'll also look at as I said, the BI systems. We'll look at our sourcing strategies, and we'll look at IT business alignment. Then finally, we'll also look at systems approach to problem solving, as well as end user computing. We used to look at, there was a topic on strategic information systems planning, but we'll see if we can actually incorporate it into our course or into our program this time around. So we'll just keep a lookout for that topic. So we may not necessarily follow the topics according to the course outline, but I would prefer that maybe we follow them more in line with this order. So this order will help us to create the connections between the various topics, because none of them is actually independent of the other. Is that fine? Now, another thing that we are going to be doing is there are video lectures, so we'll be recording our lectures, right? But I also have video lectures that have been pre-recorded, which I'll be releasing as we go into the course. And these video lectures basically explain most of the topics. So what I'm going to be doing in our lectures when we meet like this, I will not necessarily be going through each and every point that is in the notes or that are in the lectures, because the recorded lecture itself has got all the information that you need. Now, what I'll be doing in these lectures is to emphasize on the important parts that I know may be misunderstood, may not be taken seriously, or which I have noticed over the years or over the course of teaching this course, that they have to get understanding or answering questions to do with this topic. So these lectures will give you more in-depth information on what is being covered in those videos, and will act more as a guide to what you should really know, how you should really know it, and cover those nitty-gritties that may not be in the videos. So just remember, we've got video lectures, and then we have these lectures which are also recording. And I would encourage you, please, you should attend these lectures, because these basically are the ones that make it easy for you to understand the connections of everything, unlike if you just watch the video lectures. You know, last semester, I think that was the first class I had on which we just learned using the e-learning platform, and the performance was not really pleasing. I mean, the material, everything is there, but I think people just took it for granted that maybe they will start the last minute or something like that, and then they were overwhelmed. And in the end, most of their performances were not so pleasing. So to guard against that, I would encourage you to attend the lectures, listen to the pointers that I give, and if possible, you can watch the video before we join the lecture. That way you can actually even get more value and more depth. Are there any questions so far? So I just wanted to find out from you guys, is there anyone who doesn't have an IT background in our class? Anyone who doesn't have an IT background? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, I was asking if there's anyone who doesn't have an IT background. If you're typing something, maybe someone can read out my comments, because I will not be able to see those comments as I present my screen. So I'm assuming we all have some IT background, either professionally or from our studies, and we are comfortable with a lot of with most of the IT concepts.
I think two whatever background
in IT. So it's fine. I think it's just a way of trying to make sure when we are explaining the concepts, we don't make assumptions that we already understand some of these things. So that's fine. So today I just wanted us to meet and have this introduction, and then we also need to look at the key at the intro that we have for this topic. Can you see the slide that's on my screen? Or I'm no longer sharing my screen.
I mean, it's not. It's a share screen. It's not. Pedro,
I hope you can see my screen now.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see your screen now.
Okay. So I think for the next 10 to 15 minutes, we'll just go through this slide. Now, this introduction is going to cover concepts that we are going to cover again in the various topics. But the whole idea of the introduction, as we did with this course outline, is basically for us to know what to expect in this course, to tune our minds to think differently in terms of IT, and to look at things from a higher level perspective rather than from the functional roles perspective, where we are the ones actually doing the digging. So this is basically all to get you to think in that perspective. I think I'm no longer sharing my screen, right? So this is just to get you to think in that perspective, and hopefully by the end of the course, we'll all be seeing things in a different light. Okay, so the first thing that we need to understand, as I said before, basically this is about walking in the footsteps of IT managers and consultants, and we are trying to develop a managerial mindset or approach to our work and trying to see things from a broader perspective and not just limited to our technologies. So we'll be trying to understand how our IT systems and functions are going to impact the business at large, and how we can actually implement IT investments that are cost effective and which allow the business to implement processes and procedures as well as technologies that can benefit it in the long term. So these are some of the things that we'll be covering, as IT is an information technology enabler, basically for the business. I think we have done a course on project management skills, so we're not really going to delve into that. That's something that I believe we'll just touch on as we go on and cover, as we are covering other topics. So the first thing we need to be able to do is to define what an information system is, okay? And from the definition I got when I was in Form 1, basically a computer is a system that takes inputs, processes them, and gives outputs. And basically that's what all information systems do. So the definition for a degree program is the one on the screen there, where we now say an information system is basically a collection of interrelated components. So these components could simply be a screen, a CPU, and a mouse, okay, and a keyboard. Those are interrelated components. But it can also be as complicated as having different physical servers or different virtual servers that are doing different works, but are integrated using certain technologies so that the information that is being produced by one server or one system is actually collected by another, processed, and then the output is used by another system, and then we produce all various types of outputs from there. So an information system basically would be made up of different components, which could be physical or virtual. But the key things is it's supposed to collect, process, and store as well as output information. So there are 5 main parts that make a computer system, which is the hardware. You cannot have a computer system without the hardware, without the software, without a database to store the data, without the network, as well as without the expertise from the people who will be creating or using the system. So these 5 components are the ones that we integrate. Then we do all our inputting, processing, outputting, as well as storage. So we have different types of information systems. Now you'll find that from the list that you are seeing there, they may seem like a lot of systems, right? But you'll find that some of them are very similar. Some of them are closely related. For example, if we look at the top 3, the executive support system, decision support system, and the management information systems, basically they're speaking to the same thing. What do those systems do? Can someone just tell us what any one of those systems does or what those systems do? Anyone? Let's participate, guys. I am more motivated.
Are they not used? Are they not
yes,
used
you can go
by
ahead.
the top management? Are they not used by the top management to make decisions and planning purposes?
Yes, that's correct. So we can say those top 3 are used by not just top management, but management in general. So you could have different levels of management, as I said before. You could have your chief, your C-suite, then you have your middle managers, then you have your line managers. So they can use those to make decisions that affect whatever work is being done in the company. And then we have transaction processing systems. What do these systems do? I think this one is from databases, from your databases course. Your participation is my fuel, guys. Just say whatever you are thinking, whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter. What matters is you say it out. The transaction processing system. what does a transaction processing system do? Okay, so the simplest definition for a transaction processing system is it's a system that processes transactions, right? From the name itself, it's a system that processes transactions. So for example, it's a system which either in real time, but mostly in real time, allows you to maybe input certain information and then processes it and stores it in a system for later use, either in a decision support system or for accounting purposes or and the like. For example, you could look at a shop, let's say TM, Pick and Pay or OK. They could have a system used by the two operators to get or to process all the data of what has been bought and the change and the like. That's a transaction processing system, and it's connected to a certain database. Or it could be even in a bank, the system that's going to be used to manage the bank accounts, what is being deposited, what is being withdrawn. That's also a transaction processing system, because it's looking at what have I been given and what am I giving out. So there's a transactional relationship there between certain parties. It could be between people or between systems. So the key systems there could be the decision support system is the umbrella system for these three. Then we have our knowledge management system for managing the knowledge in an organization. We have our transaction processing system, and then we have our customer management systems. Yes, the office automation systems and process control systems are also just important, but in this course, I think let's focus more on the decision support systems, the TPS, and maybe the customer relation management system. So all these systems now, the key thing is, as we incorporate them into our organization, we should know why we are doing it. What is the purpose of each system? And how is it going to be influenced, or how is it going to influence how our organization works? For example, how is it going to be affected by the operating environment, by our organizational structure, by the culture and politics of our organization or of our country, as well as by the leadership and processes that we have in our organization. So when we are buying or purchasing information systems, or when we are developing these systems, we need to keep all those various factors in mind so that we come up with the right system. So these are some of the impacts or benefits that can be drawn by having a good information system. So the first thing is it will introduce automation. Oh yeah, so I think I forgot something else here. So we are also going to have maybe business process reengineering here. So this one is the one that talks towards not just automation, but generally how we reorganize our IT department to be able to face new challenges in the market or in the business. So it can introduce automation. That's one of the advantages. It can help us increase revenue while reducing our headcount. It can also help us have a horizontal organizational structure instead of a vertical one. So with a horizontal organizational structure, it allows for communication to flow across all parties, regardless of their position in the organization. So the CEO can easily communicate with the attaché, for example, by using email. It makes it easy for anyone to communicate with anyone, which allows for free data flow in the organization. That's empowering everybody to be able to participate in the running of the business. It also allows for good flow of information and communication, as I said. And the other impact is that the information technologies that we have, or the technologies and tools that we have, can also be influenced or influenced. The organization can affect the kind of tools that it purchases or procures based on its various factors. And at the same time, the various technologies out there can affect how an organization uses them. So for example, as we move into cloud computing, you'll find that if an organization didn't have a strategy for cloud computing, it may actually now start to think about it because the technology is there. So in so doing, the technology is influencing the organization. At the same time, the organization can say, we have got very sensitive data that we do not want to put in a public cloud. So what we are going to do is we're going to build our own private cloud. And by so doing, the organization has influenced the technology that it's going to purchase or to use in its organization. So there's a push and pull, love and hate relationship between the technologies themselves as well as the organizational structure and processes. So these are some of the benefits or impacts that you can get from using information systems. Then we'll look at business processes later on, but right now it's not really a key thing, but it's just important to note that business processes are basically a collection of routines or a set of steps and procedures that we use in our organization to achieve certain goals. So that we'll look at another time. Then we spoke of the importance of the corporate strategy. Now, I'm not really going to read through these notes because you do that at a later stage or when you're now studying. But the key thing I want you to remember as far as corporate strategy is concerned is that the corporate strategy is basically the overall direction that the business wants to take in its operations. Now, you'll find that a corporate strategy can be a strategy ranging from, for example, 3 to 5 years, right? And within those 3 to 5 years, the organization has got an overall plan of exactly what it wants to achieve. Now, some organizations, they may be trying to achieve profitability. That could be their goal during that period. Some could be trying to improve customer, their market share. Some, it could be customer satisfaction. Some could be cost containment. So they'll be focusing on cost cutting, whilst some might be focusing on general growth of the business, which may be acquiring other assets or merging with other business. So the corporate strategy differs depending on what the organization wants, the environment it's working, and the like. And as we operate as an IT department, our goal is not to live in our own little world, but our goal is to understand the corporate strategy, and then whatever we do as IT should then help us achieve that ideal. So if we are in a cost-cutting phase, then as IT, we should understand how we can contribute to reducing the cost of the business. If we are looking at increasing market share, we also need to look at how can IT come up with innovative systems or tools that can be used by the marketplace to increase efficiency as well as the overall satisfaction of the tools, hence increasing the market share. So there are different types of corporate strategies that can be done by a business, and it is our responsibility as IT to make sure that we have got an IT strategy that's feeding into the corporate strategy. So let's make sure we understand that part, because it basically creates the foundation or the building blocks for everything else that we're going to be talking about in this course. Everything else feeds into the corporate strategy, but we'll look at it from an IT perspective, not from a business or finance perspective. Now you can go and look at the 5 P's of strategy. I'm not going to focus on that. The importance of corporate strategy, you can also look into that. But you should also remember that if just because we have not covered a certain slide in this lecture, it does not mean it's not important. Like I said, some of these, most of these topics are pre-recorded, so the concepts are explained somewhere else. And also some of these issues are a bit straightforward. So if you have any issues, you can post them in the WhatsApp group and we can help each other if there is somewhere where you are not clear or you don't understand. Is that okay? Are you still there?
Yes, we are there.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you. I thought I might be preaching to myself here. Okay, so these are some of the important points of a corporate strategy, as well as the benefits of having it. You know, it's universal, so it can apply to any environment or any task. It helps us to keep pace with our changing environment. If things are changing, the strategy helps us to adjust ourselves to suit that. It increases our competitiveness in the market, gives us a clear sense of where we are going and what we are doing, helps employees be motivated because they know exactly what's expected of them. And we have got more efficiency and effective ways of implementing our actions for good results. So you can look at all these various benefits and make sure you understand. Now, as I mentioned before, there are different levels of what? Of strategy. So there's the corporate strategy, which is basically the overall strategy. So the corporate strategy, it also depends on the structure of the company. So a corporate strategy could say, for example, there could be a holding company, right? That has got subsidiary companies under it. So the holding company, for example, could say Econet. The holding company Econet could have an overall strategy that affects how Cassava, how Stewart Bank, how Komi, how EcoCash works, because it's the umbrella body for that. And then the business units themselves now will have their own business strategy. Okay, so the corporate strategy could be for a holding company, or it could still be for any company that even doesn't have its own subsidiaries. But if they are subsidiaries, then those subsidiaries will have their own business strategies, where Econet would say we want to make sure that we have got the best quality network, and then Cassava says we want to make sure that we have got the best innovations as far as technology is concerned. Then Stewart Bank is saying we want to make sure that we have got the best banking products, etc. So those are now the business strategies at business unit level. Then we have the functional strategies. So within each business, there's a department, right? So each department will then come up with its own strategy at functional level. And then within that department, we'll then move to the various sections, which will also come up with their own operational strategies on how they're actually going to do the hard work, the heavy lifting, to make sure that they satisfy the strategy that they have. So you'll find that there's a hierarchical relationship between these four strategies, where the operational strategy is supposed to help achieve the functional strategy, and the functional strategy is supposed to help achieve the business strategy, and the business strategy is supposed to help achieve the corporate strategy. So just remember that in these levels of our strategies, there is a hierarchical relationship, and that hierarchical relationship needs to be maintained at all times to make sure that we are not getting lost as the IT department. Then we'll look at IT business alignment. Basically, this is saying we want to make sure that whatever IT is doing is satisfying the needs of the business at any one time. So we'll look at this again later on in our course. But for now, you can actually go and read this introductory slide and get a better picture of what it is that we are talking about. Then also, as I said, we're going to look at IT governance. The key things being the strategic alignment of IT and the business, how we can actually get value delivery from IT to the rest of the business, how we manage our resources, risk management, as well as how we measure performance in the organization. And so these are some of the advantages of that, and we are going to look at that in depth when we look into that topic. As I said before, we're not going to look into project management because I think you have done a course on that. So basically, these are the key building blocks of our course. And if you just understand this, coupled with your experience in IT, so you'll find that most of these concepts are not really new, but we are going to do them in such a way so that you can internalize them and understand why they are really important, even though you've heard, I think some might have had them being spoken of. Some of you could be business analysts or systems analysts and you deal with these issues every day, but we need to make sure that we have internalized them and really realized the value that they bring to the business at any one time. Are there any questions on this so far? Okay, so this is the e-learning platform. I'm sure you know how to find your way around it, right? Okay. Okay, so this is the e-learning platform. So you go under learning paths. That's where you'll find the material for this course. Go under learning paths and you'll find the materials for this course. So you'll find the video lecture that's just describing the course outline. You'll also find the course outline document. Then you'll find a slide on the introduction. I'll also take this recording. I hope I can download it, and I'll also upload it there as well for you to have reference to it at any one time. And for each and every topic, we'll make sure that there's a video there, as well as the notes. And some of those topics are going to have quizzes, and those quizzes will add up to either your third test or your third assignment. I'll see how I'll structure it. So make sure you are always accessing this platform, and I'll always update you when I post any new materials. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's all for today. We'll start the heavy lifting next week. Are there any questions before we dismiss and get a deserved break? Well, I have a question. Which other course were you doing today?
Embedded systems.
System design.
Embedded systems. Okay, that's fine. I think for this one, we'll be taking about an hour at most to go through the various concepts. So okay, so thank you for your attendance. I think a good number of you attended, which is great. Let's keep up the great attendance, and I'll see you next week. If there are any issues, guys, whether they are questions or administrative issues, if they are not personal, you can post them in the group. If they are personal, you can contact me on the contact details. They are in the course outline or using my WhatsApp number. It's still fine. So thank you very much, and have a good night. See you next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
All right, goodbye.
Okay, sir. Bye.